Hello, everyone. As promised, this is your Cobra Kai spoiler review, deep dive, maybe some predictions for season 4, a little bit of everything right now. And I was very pleasantly surprised to discover a certain someone was a Cobra Kai fan. Please welcome Amelia back to the channel. I'm so happy to do this with you.
Me too.
Tell me a little bit first how big of a fan you've been for how long. Like, does this stem from a close connection to the Karate Kid movies?
So it doesn't.
Okay.
That was part of why I nagged Matt about watching it so much, because when Cobra Kai first came out, I was like, I don't care. Because first of all, I like Karate Kid, but I was never like, oh my God, Karate Kid is the best movie I've ever seen. And then it was produced by U2 TV, and so I was like, I'm okay. Thanks, though. And then I watched the first season and was like, well,
Yeah.
that's incredible and that's infuriating. So
That's the cool thing about the show in general is it doesn't matter if you're a Cobra Kai fan first or a Karate Kid fan first. This show is for everyone, and that's what every single nostalgia play in this industry should be.
yeah. And then this, like, the thing is, even though, like, I've seen the films, but I don't remember a ton about them, especially with some of the stuff that happened this season. But Cobra Kai reminds you, it's like, okay, even if you haven't watched these films, we're going to give you a little snippet about why this matters. And so it still has that punch. It still shows new fans why they should be thrilled about what's going down. And that's what makes it so smart.
So everyone on the channel already knows my non-spoiler thoughts on season 3. So before we jump into spoilers, how did you feel about the season overall?
I loved it. I was very happy with it. I hadn't, like, I think I knew in the back of my mind that this was still, like, done by all the same people. But, like, in my brain, I was like, oh, it's shifting over to Netflix. What if they ruin it? What if it goes from this, like, not indie, but like this smaller thing, and then it finally gets like the money behind it and it sucks. But it's like this season was already done by the time it was purchased. But still, like, I still have high hopes for season 4. I thought season 3 was very well done. I was really upset about a certain character's absence.
Oh, Aisha?
Yeah.
So was I. I felt it. I mean, I don't really know why they chose to do that, but if there was a legitimate reason they had to, the way that they write her off, I mean, you know, like, it makes sense. It's fine, but I did very much miss her presence in that group.
Yeah. If my kid got in an all-out war at their high school, I'd be like, yep.
Yeah. Oh, the other one that I was thinking of was Stingray. It's like when it comes to verbally writing off a character, his was a little easier to digest than hers was. And it was mostly because I had a lot of fun with him, but it made a lot of sense for him to go down that path. Whereas I think Aisha, you know, that character could have been served very well by what the group goes through this season.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So we're just going to have a free-for-all here and go a little crazy, but I kind of have a list of characters to at least get us started. And feels like a logical place to start is Miguel, given the big finish of last season and most of the questions going into season 3 were, you know, around his character. So one of the biggest things that I was worried about in season 3, given where season 2 ended, was the show's ability to blend the lighthearted humor that it had become known for to a point with respecting the severity of Miguel's injury.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that quite well. And I think they tease that initially in the trailer with that scene where he falls off the bed. I think you get that a little bit right there. And the way they keep at it, it works really well. I'm no doctor and I know nothing about that kind of condition. So for all I know, maybe his recovery was a little swift compared to what it might have been in reality. But as someone who does not know those specifics, I think they sold his recovery and just the path and the time it took well enough.
Yeah. Especially for like a 8 episode season. Like, it's short. Like, you don't have time to spend this whole thing doing that, given the importance of the arc that these kids play. Like, is realism important? Sure. Does it have as much of a place in a show like Cobra Kai? No. Like, you watch Mr. Miyagi rub his hands together and heal someone. Like if you're cool with that, but you're mad that Miguel can tap his toe, I don't know what to tell you. But the growth there was so fun. Like fun feels like a mean way to say that, but like I loved Miguel, and then they took Miguel down the very stereotypical Cobra Kai plot in season 2, and so I was horrified that this kid was just like not gonna come back.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this desperate injury was a great way to either make or break that. Like it could be what makes him never ever come back from that cusp, or it could be what makes him realize, oh God, I almost died and I almost got other kids killed too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's maybe scale it back.
So there are moments where, you know, the show requires suspension of disbelief, but the thing that keeps the show grounded are all of the themes, the ideas, and lessons that can very easily be applied to the real world. And Miguel's recovery is something that I got very hung up on in a good way, because, and this is you know, basically comparing a level 1 injury to something a lot more serious, like what the character goes through in the show. But you know, when I went hiking with Matt, I tripped and I hurt my ankle, and it's been like a little bit of a long recovery. And what winds up happening, or at least what happened to me, is when I got back into it, I was terrified. And if I'm being completely honest, at this point in time, I don't know how soon I'm going to go on a hike. But to see someone like Miguel, you know, get through that huge challenge and still hold on to that, you know, the spark that he loves so much about karate, especially with Johnny's mentorship, like something like that can inspire someone else out there to, you know, not necessarily push aside what they went through, but to process it in a similar way and forge forward. And I appreciated that.
Yeah, like I shattered my ankle 16 years ago on a trampoline. And now to this day, when I get on a trampoline, my ankle, like, you know how like when you start doing the thing and it hurt, just like twinges. It's like, you remember this? Stop doing this. Do not do this. So like that makes total sense. And it is such a good, it's such a clever way to like drive that connection with Miguel, because Miguel is by far the most relatable character in this series. Like, and they write him that way. Like they make sure like, if you lean towards this Cobra Kai direction here, you can identify with him there. If you have conflict because of that, you can identify with him there. He is by far the most well-rounded character that we get.
Okay.
So having that as like again, as you said, like level 1, like for people who are legit injured, it's not going to work that way. But still, it's still inspiring in a different perspective.
There's a lot of value in the motivation department there.
Yeah.
Another thing that I loved about the writing of that element, but also something that speaks to the show's structure throughout season 3, is how well intertwined the young ensemble problems are with their older counterparts. It's like, it's not just about Miguel healing from the injury. Johnny needs the experience of getting back into teacher mode in order to move forward in his own life. And I think it's a pretty similar situation with Daniel and Sam as well. She was the one that I think surprised me mostly because, like, I love Mary Mauser. She was great in seasons 1 and 2, but what they put on her shoulders this time around, that requires like a different level of, almost like an internal, I guess an internal performance as well. Like that is a really dark headspace to be in. And she really nailed it. It was very exciting to see her, you know, and I brought this up in my other review, in a sense, like flex her acting muscles more because she can do it.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I want to get to Mary Mauser, but in my favorite part of the Miguel arc is, like, I was one of the people who was like, this kid is never walking again. And that's his story for the rest of forever. Like, he dropped from 20 feet in the air on his spine on a banister. He's done. So, like, I was very much at the beginning, I was like, all right, I know that that's not actually what's going to happen. How are you going to spin this? For me personally, music means so much to me. It's so important to like my personal healing, both mentally and physically. So to have that moment and you just see his toes start to tap, and I was like, yep, I'm in, I'm on board. That's perfect. Great job. Amazing.
It was such a well-executed sequence too, the way they did it, because I don't know if this is the same for you, but when I was watching that play out, I was viewing it as a moment just for Johnny to lift Miguel's spirits, not for him to actually help him move forward with his recovery. So when that happened, I was caught off guard in the best possible way.
Yeah. Like it's you kind of have an idea, like, okay, yeah, we're getting close here. But like to have that little yeah.
I also don't know if anyone else made this connection, but that felt to me a little bit like the muscle memory that Miyagi teaches Daniel and Daniel teaches his students with, you know, like wax on, wax off, paint the fence, all that kind of stuff. It's just that was a way unique to Johnny to kind of tap back into that muscle memory, was through music that he loved.
Yeah. He does so great. Both of them do. Johnny's my favorite character of the show.
He's so good. He's so good. And Sholo is so good in that role too. That's another one. I mean, that's been a very well-layered character since day one, where he's got to hit the emotional beats, the comedy, the physicality of the role, and he can just nail every single element of it.
Yeah, every single thing he does is so good. Like this series does ride on his back.
Yeah.
You mentioned Sam and Mary Mauser's performance, and like we've talked about this a little bit before. Sam is was one of my least favorite characters in Cobra Kai, because she has so much of, it's like seeing Daniel's journey in the beginning without any of the learning. And since we already experienced that in Karate Kid, like I just sort of didn't really have a lot of time for Sam. I was happy to see like a girl involved in the series and like having those moments and those beats, but I was just sort of exhausted by how she treats other people, because she's very self-centered. She's very concerned about being self-centered, but she's still a very self-centered character. And we watch her do it over and over and over again to Aisha, to Miguel, to oh my God, I forgot Johnny's son's name.
Robbie.
To Robbie. Like she uses a lot of people and she doesn't realize that she's using them because she's like a 14-year-old. So, okay. But we finally got that growth from her this season, and like the quantifying of what is happening. Like she finally gets that moment to see, I did a thing and then I got scared and someone got massively physically injured because of it.
Yeah.
So getting to see her have that moment where, oh my God, my actions hurt other people is so huge for me. And she went from my least favorite character to being like, all right, you're way climbing up there. Like I am now really engaged with your arc because you have an arc now.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that criticism about her in the earlier seasons and how that changes here. And that kind of speaks to something else about the show that's great in general, is that so many of the fight sequences are done with purpose. Like it's not just fighting for the sake of fighting. Yeah. It's fighting in a way that adds to the story. And I think we see more of that in this season than we have in any of the other seasons. Even though I think that quality is still present in season 1 and season 2, they take it to another level this time around.
Yeah. And like in the same regard, but like a different side of the spectrum there, like the female stunt team has actually like gone on record talking about this with like, because the kids in like the female characters in Cobra Kai are actually allowed to wear clothes, they are able to wear the protective pads that they're supposed to, so they don't have to pull their punches the way they do when they're doing fight choreography for other female characters in other shows, because they're padded up the way they need to be. So like the fight choreography looks so good because it's given the opportunity to look so good.
It's so tempting to jump ahead and go to that end fight, which was just so good. But before we get there, it feels like a good transition is to maybe go from Sam to Tori.
Yes.
And what an interesting character. I'm at that point with Tori where I don't quite know what to make of her and her potential to change. So at this point, when we release this, everyone will have already seen my, or at least most of my Cobra Kai interviews. And when I got into Peyton List's Zoom room, whatever, she had taken one of those BuzzFeed quizzes with Mary Mauser. And Mary Mauser gets Tori as her answer. And in the description, it says that Tori has a heart of gold. And when I heard that, I'm like, no, do you see all the terrible things she does? Especially because I read that blurb after watching season 3, where, you know, she pushes it yet again and ends up in a pretty bad place. But they're not wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what she's doing for her family right now and what she needs to do in order to just get by and live. She is primarily serving other people. And all of the rage that she's emitting, it feels like it comes from a justifiable place that's not her fault.
Yeah. I struggle a great deal with Tori, and I'm going to get a tiny bit personal here. Her story is very adjacent to my story, so I struggle with a lot of the explanations that we give to her to allow her to be the bitch that she is. And I am in no way saying that I did not go through a very bad bitch phase and like, not in the, I was a bad bitch, like in the, I was an awful person, like for a decent stint of time, but I also didn't try to murder people. Like I struggle with her so much because it's getting the opportunity to watch a story that is so close to mine in the ways that matter to like her behavior. So it's frustrating for me to like watch these mistakes, and not because it's not a good arc, but because I have the experience with the mistakes. It's just really frustrating for me to watch and know like,
I obviously, I can't speak to it from the same place as you, but I'm curious your thoughts on comparing that situation with Tori when she has someone like Kreese behind her. And given what season 3 says about why he's the way he is, it feels, as it played to me, the intensity of the rage and the harm she's inflicting on other people, it never would have gotten to this level had it not been for his teaching, his more violent teachings.
I agree with you. Like when we first meet her, I was like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with her. I'm so interested in where this girl is going to go. And like, yeah, the jealousy angle sucked. But like, they're all kids, so their behavior sucks. It's supposed to suck. They're high schoolers. We all sucked in high school. So like, you got to make some allowances there for the
I'm pretty sure. So I don't have the patience for love triangle type situations usually, but in this show, the best relationship is officially Dimitri and Yasmin. Not to like go completely off track here, but that might have been one of my favorite things.
It's amazing. But yeah, I do. I agree on her character. I agree on Kreese, and like Kreese's influence of her, like there are a million John Kreeses out there who like try to influence people who are scared and angry and have nowhere else to go. Like, because when no one else is trying to help you, you take whatever help you can get, because it's not like, back to the heart of gold thing. It's not about your survival. If you turn this down, your mom loses something, your brother loses something. It's not about what you're sacrificing. It's about how it affects your family. And that is the worst possible place to be in. So it's the whole thing is very, I understand. It also infuriates me. Like there was a point where I had to learn that your trauma is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. And Tori is very much in the point where she's just in the trauma and she's not given the opportunity to heal yet. So I'm very engaged in where we're going to see that turning point. And we couldn't have it this season because we had it with Hawk. Like 2 of them at once would have been too much. It would have been corny. But I think that kind of just really adds to where we're going with her character, no matter how much she frustrates me on a personal level.
They should write what you just said into season 4. What was it? Can you repeat that again?
Yeah, it's not my quote by any means. It's one that's helped me out a lot. Your trauma is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. Because there are so many people who are like, well, I act the way I do because I went through this. Cool. That's awful. I'm so sorry. You did not deserve that. But now that you are using that as a justification to harm other people, you are now the abuser. You are now the problem. And there are a lot of people in real life and in fiction that get to that abuser point, but don't acknowledge it. And like a lot of times stories don't acknowledge it. Like this person has done what they did because they were made sad once. And that is a huge reduction of bad things. But like this person is the way they are because awful things happened. Awful things happen to everybody. You don't get to abuse other people because of it. Man,
this sounds like an excellent point that they could make the next time around. I definitely would like to see that happen. Who do you think could spark that in Tori? Do you think that they're going to continue the Sam-Tori feud where maybe it is Sam of all people who, you know, plants that seed in her mind and helps her change?
Yeah, I would very much like Sam and Tori. And I hate comparing female characters to dude characters, but I would really like Sam and Tori to be the next Daniel and Johnny. Like, I know it leads into Miguel and Jesus Christ, why can't I remember his name?
I'll never be able to forget Robbie's name anymore because now my niece is Robbie. Oh. And I always think about that
now. Yeah, I would love to see them have that moment where like Tori is just at a point where she can't get up anymore. Like, and that's not going to happen until she sees who John Kreese is. But when she sees who John Kreese is, she's not going to reach out to somebody else. Yeah. She's going to go off on her own and realize I can trust no one. 0 people on God's green earth are here to help me. She is going to leave and try and run away. And I want Sam to be the one to reach out and be like, listen, you've tried to kill me like twice. How about we just sit down and have a talk?
I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that moment. You already brought up Hawk. How did you feel about his transformation? Because I'll say it was quick, and I didn't think that was going to work given how extreme he was on one side of this divide. But I think the genius move that the writing team made was bringing back Kyler and how quickly that could change his mind frame, because it's not even just about someone challenging his place in Cobra Kai. It's about having his past just like flood back in and kind of wreck his world, and like essentially being able to see through Kyler what he's doing to other people.
Yeah.
And that right there, I think, earns Hawk going from the dark side to the light.
Yeah. So here's my thing. I'm a huge wrestling fan. So this moment worked out for me so well because I don't think you have any involvement with wrestling at all. So I'm just going to
do a little bit.
Explain. That's not a shot. P.S. Wrestling is not for everybody. But there are heel turns and there are face turns. So like you're a great guy, and then like all of a sudden on the turn of a dime, you're a monster. And then like you're a monster, and all of a sudden, no, I'm gonna help this good guy. And so that moment is so much of the quintessential face turn that it worked on me as a wrestling fan so well. Like I wasn't even concerned about it. I was like, yes, go save your best friend. Let's do this. I am so engaged right now. And the pause that they had there really helped, where it's the two of them looking at each other and like seeing all of their friends just destroying each other around them. Like, wait, I don't actually want to hurt you. Let's hurt other people.
Yeah, that's definitely an accurate way to describe it. It was such a satisfying moment, though. To be able to see the two of them fight side by side is just like peak satisfaction level. And I just freaking love Jacob Bertrand in that role. He kicks ass, and he has the screen presence to support that.
Yeah.
Bring in another one of my interview questions. I'm very curious to know what you think about this, but one of the things that I asked him during our chat when we got into spoilers was, do you think that Hawk can still have the Hawk look even though he's moving away from Cobra Kai, the place where that look was birthed, and into a different karate teaching style?
Oh yeah. Like, and so I come from, like, I say this with like my hair curled and my face done. Like, I come from a very like goth punk background. So like, and so many people like look at those folks and judge them. And they're also like often some of the kindest people you'll ever meet. People are just afraid of them because, oh my God, look at how his hair looks. What a freak. Like, no, I think I don't only think that it's possible. I think that it's important. Like, he didn't create the Hawk persona for Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai inspired him to create the Hawk persona for himself.
That is a good point.
Like, he didn't make it for Kreese either. Johnny is the one who inspired him to do that, not Kreese. So like, he just has, like, that's for him. It's not for anybody else.
Okay. I like that. If you want to know what Jacob said, I think he said, I have some of it written here. A lot of soul searching is needed to find that answer. I don't know if he would be able to handle the Hawk mentality while looking like Eli, or being the good guy while having the mohawk.
Yeah.
He was basically getting at, there needs to be like a merging of the two moving forward, and he doesn't quite know which way they'll go on the look.
That makes sense. Like,
that makes sense.
You never know.
They don't know anything yet. They also don't, like, literally probably don't know anything about season 4.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't wait for more. Who do we want to go to next? How did you feel about the Daniel and Okinawa stuff, especially if you are not super into Karate Kid Part 2?
So I was really happy about it ultimately, but I remember maybe 3 seconds of Karate Kid Part 2. I remember the tsunami, which is important to where I'm going to get eventually. But so when Chosen shows up and they flash back to when he just like dead ass slides down the thing and kidnaps her while she's dancing, I'm like, what in the blue fuck just happened? And then like, I'm watching all of these people watch a child defend this woman when they can clearly get across the water. Just like, what is going on? But it's still like it showed me like, this is why you should be afraid of this very man right now. But I loved how much Chosen indicates there are only 2 men who are still stuck in the past. Mm-hmm. 2 of them. Chosen has grown up. Kumiko's like, whatever, we're all fine now. Like, they're buds now. He tried to kill me. It was fine. It was no big deal. We were kids. It was weird. So I loved like their meeting as like a precursor to Allie coming back. There are only 2 men who are still living in high school, and both of you are the problem, you tremendous morons. I also, Chosen and Daniel's moment in the dojo.
Yeah.
Like the boop. I hollered, I yelled, I was delighted with them.
I quite like that boop, and every single time it comes back, because it's come back more than once.
Yeah, it's so good. But my favorite moment of the whole season, and possibly the whole series, because like moments of kindness and stuff like that, and like kindness and selflessness solely for the sake of selflessness, like he could have died saving that little girl. Like, he didn't know that 30 years later, this girl was going to save his whole existence. And so for Kumiko to bring her, and just that moment of like, oh my God, you're the girl I saved. And she's like, yeah, I'm glad you remember, because I'm about to save your ass. Like, that moment, I was just like, yes, this is so good.
What was the line? She said, I wrote it down. Put good out into the world, and good will come back to you. And could you imagine if everyone just embraced that?
Wouldn't it be nice?
I would like that. I also thought that the shift with Chosen worked really well. It's like we have a whole show to explore that change happening in Daniel and Johnny, but here's a character we haven't seen in decades, and he just comes back, and we're here and believing that he's become a completely different person. And this might have been on my mind because I had watched Wonder Woman so soon after watching season 3 of Cobra Kai for maybe the second time. I've watched the show too much. But one of my favorite elements of Wonder Woman 1984 is this idea of sometimes you can't see what you're learning until you come out the other side. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's what Chosen is in this show, this version of the character. He's someone who has just had the time to process, and now that he's on the other side, he can see what they were doing. So now, as you kind of hinted at before, like it's time for more characters to do the same.
Mm-hmm. And like those characters were very much like, I was on the cusp of being annoyed. It's like, okay, I'm on board with this constant battling because that's what this show is about. But we have so many teases about, oh my God, we have so much in common. Oh my God, we're so close to having common ground. We have so many hints at that. By the end of the show, I was very much like, this is your moment. You have this and you don't go back from this, because I am now bored with the back and forth. And they did it exactly the way I wanted to. They realized, like, we've played this on for as long as we should. Mm-hmm. And now we're together.
They couldn't have come up with a better way to make that happen, too. Mm-hmm. So we've been talking about the return of Allie ever since the very beginning. The conversation started at the end of season 1, and given what happens in season 2, that topic was just like a hotter and hotter talking point.
Yeah.
And I was waiting, like, how are you going to do it? And I had kind of put myself in this mind frame where I'm like, don't get yourself too hyped. What they're going to wind up doing is it's going to be a brief cameo. It'll be cool, but then she'll be gone.
Yeah.
2 very full episodes where Allie just bridges the gap between the past and the present and also the future so freaking well. And it's just incredible to me how it feels like even after all these years, Ralph Macchio, William Zabka, and now Elizabeth Shue just like ease right back into these roles like they never left them. Like it felt so true to the original movie, but it also felt like 3 individuals who have, you know, like lived a life in a sense and have become different people.
Yeah. And again, like leaning into the Daniel and Johnny are the only 2 people who have not grown up past where they were. Like, this is a villain. I can't like him. Like, come on, man. You're like in your late 40s. Get it together. Daniel's wife.
Oh my God, I love Amanda.
Amanda, thank you. She is my everything. Her and Allie together, just like looking at each other and being like, let's talk about how stupid these 2 boys are.
That, I mean,
my everything.
We should give her some credit because I had a very similar feeling when they did the dinner sequence last season and she met Miguel's mother too. Yeah. It was just fun watching them all together. But this one, you know, this one has a different kind of meaning to it given everybody's history. But in general, Amanda had some of the best one-liners. And I know that character has brought that quality and that sense of humor to the show before. But this year in particular, I feel like that sense of humor paired with the fact that she's actually an active character now and she has something to do with what the main storyline is, it was just pitch perfect. And her timing and her intonation is like so spot on. I can't get over it.
Great. And like I started this season, like literally kicked off the first screener and was like, all I want from this is to see Amanda hit somebody in the face, because she has been the one person who has been the logic throughout all of this. She's like, what do you mean you're at war with another dojo? We're adults. We have a life. What is happening right now? Like, she's the voice of reason throughout this, but John Kreese introduces there is no reason here. Like, we are now actually at war. And so her getting into that point and now realizing my child is endangered by another person. So like all I wanted, kicked it off. It was like, I want her to just clock someone, and then it happened.
How good is that scene?
It was so good. I was so happy.
It's so good, but I love how she kind of continues on with that like spicy vibe too. And even when they're in the big community meeting, you know, she stands up and she's like, no, like, don't touch me, get away from me. I just like, I love that fire that she has now.
Yeah, and she like Daniel and Johnny like beat around the bush, like they're not trying to get anybody involved, like they're not saying anything out loud. And Amanda is like, this man is insane. Why is nobody talking about how this man is insane? And like she again remains the voice of reason. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that we're in season 3 and she's the first one to be like, why don't we just go to the cops?
That didn't help much.
It didn't
help much because Kreese is a master manipulator.
Oh my God, he's so good. And I was so worried, like that episode that focused on him, I don't want a humanized John Kreese. I like my villains to have levels to them, but I don't want to see a series that tries to do what it does with Johnny with Kreese. I have zero interest in understanding why he is the way he is because of exactly what I said. Like your trauma, not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. Mm-hmm. And you have not done that. You have chosen to teach children and manipulate children for your whole existence. So I don't want to see why this guy is the way he is.
Yeah, I am very curious to see how they handle him going forward. I mean, the whole Terry Silva tease at the end definitely it makes sense for the trajectory of the character because you need him to get more powerful now that Miyagi-Do and Johnny's Cobra Kai are uniting. But I just don't see a turn in that character coming. I think it's impossible, and I think that if they did that, it would do a disservice to the change that some of the other characters have experienced, if that makes sense. But I also don't want to come across like, I don't know, like maybe given what he's done though, like he really can't change.
No.
Also, Martin Kove is just too good at playing bad.
Oh my God, he's exceptional. He's so good at it.
What's that commercial that he's in now where he's like, this is my business gi?
It's like it's something into it. It's one of their products.
Usually like that annoys me when I see commercials over and over and over, but every time that commercial comes on, I'm like, I love this.
Also, as an aside, has nothing to do with anything, but can we talk about how well Martin Kove has aged? He is something else. It's insanity.
He's also just like the coolest dude in the world. Like we did a long interview a little while back, and he's just like, really, they all are. They're so knowledgeable about the industry. It's like I was talking to William Zabka because, you know, he's worked behind the lens too. Yeah. And I kind of wish that, like, I don't know if he even wants this, but I kind of hope that in the future they let him direct an episode of Cobra Kai.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah. What else did I want to tell you about Martin? Oh, did you recognize his son? I was happy to see Jesse Cove in the episode. You know, when you first meet young Kreese and there's a bully in the diner picking on him, that's Martin Cove's son, Jesse. I was very happy to see him pop up there. What did you think about all of the Kreese flashbacks? Because
they were very good.
Yeah.
Like they were interesting. I'm when I say that I don't want to sympathize with the character, it's not that I don't want to learn more about him. Mm-hmm. Like I'm happy to learn why he is the way he is. I just don't want why he is the way he is to be used as justification for that. Yeah,
I understand that.
The background stuff was awesome. I was angry because, and like, this is just like a tiny little moment where like, I don't like things that are grossly predictable. Those vex me. And so when they're all in the cage and like, they have to go fight over this pit, I'm like, that damn pit is going to be filled with cobras. And then they go and it's filled with cobras and I'm just like, ugh, no, I hate it.
Yeah, no, I might have been able to see that coming a little bit, but you know, in general, oh man, I wish I looked up the actor who played young Kreese, his name, because I thought he was really, really good, and I think that again, that's one of those roles that needed a character that could kind of show the internal struggle. He's quite good at it. And by the end of what we see of Kreese's flashbacks in this season of Cobra Kai, I 100% believed he was on the track that paved the way to the Karate Kid and beyond. Yeah. But also, that I think it's worth highlighting the show structure again with this, because going from the present to that past could feel like a very, very jarring shift. But the show is very well written in that respect and very well edited too. I never for a single moment had that feeling of, you know, when you get really, really into like one storyline and then you get ripped out and you have to go to another. Yeah. Like, that doesn't happen here. That doesn't happen here ever. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm talking about present material, past material, or this character to this character to this character. I never have that feeling in Cobra Kai.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Every single aspect of it is completely engaging. And they did such a great job. Like, and you mentioned this, like the parallels between the kids and the adults, because I was really worried about that. I was like, when I first started watching, I was like, I'm only going to care about half of this story. I don't want to meet these new kids. I don't want to learn like what they're going. I don't care. Like, I'm just here for this part of the aspect. And they never make that a problem. Like, you're immediately engaged. Like, you immediately care about Miguel. So like, that is, you're right. It's a very clever aspect of Cobra Kai that a lot of other shows do not nail.
I'm trying to figure out who we haven't spoken. We didn't really talk about Robbie all that much.
Robbie.
Yeah. Well, Robbie is actually like, he could use those words of wisdom that you gave us earlier.
Yeah.
He's taking his anger and rage and what people did to him out on other people, and that has to change.
Yeah. I think my biggest frustration with Robbie, and I think it's an important story to tell, it's just annoying in the present, is all, and it's weird with Robbie because he does not come from like a real place of privilege outside of being white and male, but all of Robbie's story this season comes from a place of privilege and just a lack of understanding of that privilege. And that's infuriating. Like, he has been shown endlessly that Daniel will not do something to him that he does not think is the right move. And I get being furious about it in the immediate, like when it actually happened. Yes, absolutely. Like, you've betrayed me. You're throwing me in jail. How could you? But the moment you have a second to think about that is when you stop being angry about it. And because he's so wrapped up in this privilege, he can't see past that. He just sees it as, I'm the one who's been wronged. Sure, I almost murdered a kid, but I'm the victim here. You're not, Robbie. You fucked up, kiddo. Like, you have to pay for this moment. And like, to see that he's still standoffish against the other people who have tried to help him, like, it's frustrating. It's good character work, and I'm interested to see where it's going to go. But in the immediate, it's really annoying to see all of that privilege come from a character who looked like he was learning so much. And it's good to illustrate that progress is not linear. You don't just get better. You get better, then you get a little bit worse, and then you go off on a side tangent, and then you might get a little bit more, and then you might have a huge jump back. So like, that's good. It's just irritating in the moment.
I feel like him getting wrapped up in what you described, I've kind of written it off as the wrong term, but I've kind of boxed it into just being a teenager, like where you just get so absorbed in, I mean, you know, like, I've been there where I've had fights with my parents and my sister, and I'm like, I can never forgive you for that. And then a couple weeks later, I'm like, what the fuck was I even mad about? But Robbie's entire season is kind of holding a grudge. And some of the moments that I appreciated from Miguel, or one in particular, I love his outburst when he gets mad at Johnny for not letting him take part in the tournament. Like, I feel like it's a similar way of lashing out as a teenager at your guardian, in a sense, that felt very true and very real to me. It's just that was, you know, one specific moment, and then they grow beyond it. Whereas, you know, and Robbie's in a completely different situation too. And he's, you know, he's gone through some shit. Now he keeps feeling like every single person is betraying him. And, you know, maybe that's something you can isolate and move on from when it's not coming from just one person. But now he has that feeling from his father, his mother. He's got it from Daniel. Robbie also has it with Sam.
Yeah.
For what he sees with Miguel. So it's just like when you're buried under the weight of all of that disappointment in the people that like you should be able to trust.
Yeah.
I can kind of understand why he's in the headspace that he's in right now.
Definitely. Like, I think it's great. Like from a storytelling perspective, I'm really curious to see where this Kreese thing will go.
Mm-hmm.
Curious and again frustrated because it is a huge step back. It's a logical step back, but it's like it's frustrating to see somebody who has had that progress like hop backwards. But it's supposed to be.
Yeah. I think they're gonna keep him on the big bad track.
I don't think he's coming back anytime soon, to be sure. Like I think we got a couple of seasons before we see him sort out his life. And I think we're going to see that as a way for Johnny to finally connect with him in a way that he hasn't had the opportunity for. Like, I think Johnny's going to be the one to bring him back. It's not going to be Daniel.
Well, thinking about what is likely going to happen, given the end of the season, it's like, let's settle this at the All Valley. Odds are it's gonna be. I think it's almost certain that Cobra Kai in the final stage of the tournament is going to be represented by Robbie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the most likely candidate on the other side would be Miguel, but I don't think it's going to be. I feel like even though he obviously puts up a very good fight in that last fight sequence and he looks like he's pretty much back to form, I wonder if they're going to let that linger a little bit and we're going to get a little bit of a surprise with who faces off against Robbie in the end.
That would be interesting. I think given how formulaic Cobra Kai is, not a shot. They do a great job with it. I do still think it's going to be Miguel, and then I think Miguel is going to whip his ass because that's the comeuppance moment. But like we're also, because Miguel is going to kick his ass, we're going to see that cheat, and we're going to see that moment that Johnny had of, do I choose to break this kid like my sensei has told me to, or do I choose not to?
Wait. The choice from which side? From Robbie.
From Robbie, yeah. Like,
and Robbie makes the choice to do what Miguel did at the end of season 2.
Yeah, Kreese is gonna tell him like break his leg, and Robbie's gonna decide not to, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he decides to, and we see him go even further down that darkness. And like, that's where it really becomes important. But like, I think we're going to continue to see those very obvious parallels done in the smart way that Cobra Kai does them.
Okay. We didn't even talk about that end fight sequence other than the hawk beat.
Yeah.
But I thought that was great. It's really difficult to top what they did at the end of season 2. I mean, that fight is a phenomenally directed sequence and oneer, and this one was also very, very well shot. But you know the comparison between the two is going to be inevitable, and I might rank this one below it, but not much further below it, because I mean, it is a stunning fight sequence visually alone. But the thing that I love about it goes back to what I've said earlier in this review. It's that those fights are done with purpose. Like whether you're talking about Hawk, whether you're talking about the beat with Tori and Sam, that fight also adds to the story. And that's so important. And the fact that those story beats come through so clearly in that fight, I think is, it deserves a major round of applause.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do rank it a little bit lower. But the little bit lower is only because the way the fight choreography can work in the school is that it can have levels to it, which is gorgeous. Like, it's always going to work better. And I say that only from a technical aspect in the way that it wins out, because I think this fight in season 3, going back to your with purpose conversation, this fight signifies to those kids that there is no place where they are safe.
Mm-hmm.
Sam and company were attacked in her home. Like, there's no longer like, we're going out to find them. They will come, they will bust through your front door. And like, imagine having that, like, at any point, like, as an adult, but like specifically as a kid, where like that is your like safe space. Yeah. School isn't safe. School's a fucking nightmare. Everybody's miserable there. But like home is where you get to go and like be sad about school or just like deal with your other things like in your own space. And now that space is tainted.
They built up to it so well too. Mm-hmm. It's like you have that moment where I think it's Khalil Everidge's character is just like they're messing with me at work now. So yeah. It was a very appropriate build before, you know, they kind of earned the right to invade the LaRusso house.
Yeah. And like we kind of touched on this, but Sam's PTSD is hugely relevant because it illustrates like, yes, a veteran like John Kreese will come home with this PTSD moment. But like we see that, especially even now when we're more understanding of mental health than we've ever been, we think that kids who say that they're having these PTSD moments are being dramatic. And yes, there is a conversation about like someone treating you poorly is not the same as abuse. Mm-hmm. Like being sad is not the same as trauma. And so we need to get better at defining those things, but we also need to get better at not ignoring kids when they're in this moment of just complete abject terror because of what they've gone through at their specific point in development. Like, sure, yeah, this veteran went through more bad stuff, but they also went through a life and had experiences that led up to it. These are kids. So like, and Sam does get brushed off for like some time. Like her parents are worried, but they can't understand what is happening with her. And her mom tries to be like, I understand, sweetie. And Sam has that moment of, you don't though. Did someone just randomly attack you? No. Did you go to school? And like that moment is such a good parallel to like the shooting situations in school right now. Like kids go into a damn war zone every day. Like, am I going to get shot today? I don't know. And nobody does anything about it. People just continue to say, we understand, and thoughts and prayers. So like to have that moment between Sam and her mom of like, I understand, sweetie, you don't. And like Daniel trying to reach out to her and her being like, I don't want you to reach out to me the way that you need to reach out to me. I need you to understand that I am paralyzed beyond belief and I can't deal with the things that have been brought to me and I shouldn't have to. And so that specific angle of the story is so smart and so well done.
Wow, that was very well said and very accurate. Oh, while you were describing all of that, I had immediate flashbacks to Spontaneous, which I've been watching too much. But you know, there's a lot of content out there that is touching on some very real problems we have on this world, and doing so in a way that, you know, it's a way to access things that are very difficult to access in real life. And so if you need entertainment in order to do so, I'm glad we have shows like this and a movie like that.
Yeah, like the gun conversation is so hard for people to believe. So like show it in a different way and then be like, hey, you really engaged with this and you were horrified for these kids, right? Well, yeah. Well, this is actually what they're going through. Like you viewed it as some sort of fanaticized version of what you want to see it as, but that's actually what we send children into of all ages every day.
Hopefully we'll learn some good lessons from shows like this. Maybe one can hope.
Maybe can hope. Stuck in our houses for a whole year. I don't know. Maybe somebody will learn something from something.
Oh, yeah. I look forward to getting back out into the world, but you know, in the meantime, I am truly grateful to have content like Cobra Kai. When I brought this up in my non-spoiler review, and I think you watched this portion of the show, Merry Hour, recently. We did a category called Best Comfort Watch, and I chose Cobra Kai because there's something about the nostalgia, the way they tap into it, and the way that they're growing the franchise, that the second I push play, it's like, even though the characters aren't safe, like I feel safe and comforted, and that world just makes me happy to be with those characters. Yeah. And the fact that we get to continue it first thing in the new year, I'm just like holding tight to that. It's a good sign for things to come.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell myself until that becomes a reality.
That's all we have right now.
Yeah, I'll take it. Before we close out, just wanted to, like, I wrote down one line from Allie that I think is just a really smart way to convey everything that's happened in the entire show. There's your side, and then there's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Allie is spot on.
Yep.
Spot on. And then I also wanted to give another shout out to Owen Morgan, Aiden Minks, and bring back Khalil Everidge, because it's not easy to be the supporting characters in such a big ensemble and still have presence, and all three of them very much do. And then when it comes to season 4 speculation, I mean, we've already done a little of it, and it's like, when I think of the burning questions, they're all those big, broad things. It's like, obviously we want to know, like, how are Daniel and Johnny gonna work together and shit like that. But one of the loose threads that I'm curious to see if they ever come back to, I think it actually happens in like one of the first few episodes. It might even be episode 1 for all I know. It was the issue with the blood in Johnny's urine.
Oh,
I got very hung up on that maybe it could be speaking to a bigger problem that just got brushed over. Do you think that's going to come back?
No, when you get punched in the kidneys really hard, you pee blood.
So it's just, it was strictly because of the hit to the back.
Yeah, like it could come up later. It could be a big gotcha moment, but it is perfectly normal to pee blood when you get punched too hard in the kidneys. You should not be happy about peeing blood ever, but that is very standard.
The reactions from the employees at the hospital were just so extreme that I'm like, obviously he has a bad bruise on his back, but that, like, their reaction said to me, like, something else could be wrong here.
Yeah, something totally. We could have that, like, big gotcha, like, oh no, something's actually wrong with Johnny. But, and I took their reactions as very much like, why is this guy so chill about the fact that he is peeing?
Yeah.
Like, why are you so
definitely read into it more ways than one here.
Yeah. But so, like, it could go both directions. Like, that is totally normal for somebody who's just been nailed in the kidney repeatedly. It is also a big signifier of other major medical issues. So who knows? We didn't talk a lot about Johnny, but like I liked his side, like, and it did feel more as like a side arc than a main arc this year, because we were so focused on Miguel and what was going on with them. Like, I view Johnny and Daniel's story as one story now, rather than 2 in the way that it has been before, which is great for the series. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm thrilled to finally be there. But in the same way that we see Robbie have those huge, like, fallback moments, we see that with Johnny in the beginning too. Mm-hmm. Like, he's drunk, he stumbles into a church shouting. like that whole scene, I am not anything even adjacent to Christian. And that whole scene, I'm just like, no, stop. Like, it's so cringe. It's so, no, I hate this. And like, you're just watching like one of the few friends he has left in life just stand at the pulpit being like, I'm sorry for this idiot. Please leave. But his, like, watching him have that moment and watching him have that moment with Allie, and I was so worried when Allie came back. I was like, don't you do this, because I love his relationship with Miguel's mother, whose name I can't remember right now, but she's great.
He is great.
Like, that is so good. And so I was so worried that they were going to use Allie as a step back, and they didn't. It was
they almost did.
They did. I was like, oh God, oh, please don't do this to me. And then, like, but that moment is before they had that conversation about this other woman. And Allie's the one who's like, listen, you screwed it up with me, dummy. Like, you went down this dumb sideways path with me. So how about you don't do it there?
I was wondering, though, if she didn't get that phone call, would he have gone through with the kiss? And like, what, just, you know,
I think he absolutely would.
What would have happened next? Do you still think he would come to terms with the fact that Carmen's the right person for him and not Allie? I do. Like, I think if Allie did happen, it would be very short-lived. So I'm glad we didn't have to go through those motions. Now that I'm thinking about it a little more, I almost feel like it was necessary for it to happen exactly that way, for him to come that close to something he's been fantasizing about for so long, and then for Allie to be like, you go into your future, stop harping on the past. And then he could fully embrace a relationship with Carmen and give her what she deserves.
Yeah.
Versus had he not come that close to Allie again and had Allie not given him her blessing in a sense, I feel like he couldn't have had the best possible relationship with Carmen.
I fully agree. Like it takes away the what if of it. Like there's no what if I had reached out to Allie? What if we did have our moment together? Like that's gone. They did have their moment together. They had their almost kiss. They had their date night with Daniel and Amanda. Like they had their moment, and like now they can have more moments as friends like this. And I think that was a good thing for Johnny to realize is I don't have to choose between these two people. Like this woman is still an important part of my story, and she gets to continue to be that now as a friend rather than a what if part of my past.
It's a very important general lesson to learn too. It's like your past isn't like shouldn't necessarily be something to be like forgotten and pushed away. Like it's part of your story and your makeup now. And I think that that's what the whole Allie scenario in season 3 really solidified. You know, they were able to come to terms with the past and the negativity that they were holding on to in a way that serves the present well.
Yeah. And I feel like it's Johnny's first moment where he has a healthy engagement with his past. Like he gets to see like, I can move past things. Like we can adjust and have a relationship in a way that fits our present. Like it's one of his first real healthy moments with somebody that he didn't just remain friends with throughout the situation. Mm-hmm. We see him continue on with his Cobra Kai buds. Like that was never in question, but Allie represents this kind of other side where Daniel is also adjacent to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, having that moment where Daniel also gets called out is
yes, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. That was so well written.
Yeah, like this like, listen, you sanctimonious, self-righteous dork. Like you could have had a future with me. I'm glad you didn't because Amanda rocks, but like you ruined this. You did this.
Oh. Man, I'm obsessed with this show. I could talk about it all day. Have we missed any like major things? I think we've covered a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Like touched on Amanda clocking A+. All
right. One last shout out to John Hurwitz, Hayden Schlossberg, and Josh Heald, who are the trio that are steering this ship, the creators of the show. And I don't know, round of applause. Again, thank you for bringing content like this to our lives. I think I could speak for you, Amelia, at this point. You're just as enthusiastic as I am. Like, it is much appreciated. And this show is just such a freaking utter delight to just talk about and, you know, like dig into like the way that it enhances the Karate Kid again. And now the Karate Kid 2. That's how you bring back popular properties. Someone out there trying to do something similar with another Karate Kid. Like, take notes. Look at what they do here and try to do that with your reboot, sequel, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the formula exists. Just use that.
All right. Before we say goodbye, Amelia, where can everyone find your wonderful work on the internet?
I post most of it to Twitter. You can find all of it on whattowatch.com. as it speaks right now. But yeah, largely Twitter at Browncoats or good luck spelling that. And then like you can find me on Instagram and other places like that.
I'll put the information in the section below. So you have no excuse, guys. All right, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this spoiler-filled conversation of Cobra Kai Season 3 on Netflix. Thanks for watching, and maybe we'll do more spoiler chats in the future. See you guys.